Hi and welcome to the How to Shoot Hybrid podcast by Your Story Studios. My name's Jules. I'm on my own today, and on this podcast we discuss photography, videography, filmmaking and topics around building successful and sustainable creative businesses. We share things we've experienced or learnt along our journey, and we speak with guests about their experiences and knowledge too. Importantly, we want to build an open-minded community to learn and grow, and we hope you enjoy joining us. So this is the first of our mini episodes. The idea being that there's a little extra episode that we put out midweek, probably Tuesday. So the main episodes are usually Fridays. And then we thought we'd put a little episode out on Tuesday, which will be much shorter, not like a massive full episode that just kind of goes through a topic that we can cover quite quickly, just to deliver a little bit of additional value to you midweek. So today I'm going to be talking about the reasons not to offer hybrid as a business. I'm just going to give you 5 points to think about because I don't want it to rattle on for ages. I want to keep it nice and succinct. So the reason for doing this is it wouldn't be correct to suggest that everybody should go into hybrid, that everybody should learn dual capability to shoot. You know, if you're a photographer, you don't have to learn video. If you're a videographer, you don't have to learn photo. Even though this is called the How to Shoot Hybrid podcast, it's not a preachy thing, and we don't want to say that everybody should do it and it's right for everybody. The idea is it's something to consider. It could be the future, but we don't want to say you have to do it and that's the only way. And it's only right when you are talking about something and you're talking about something from a place of experience and knowledge that you have considered reasons why it wouldn't be a good idea. You have to be able to be objective, and you have to be able to look at things from other perspectives. So here's the thing, you know, that is this. Being a hybrid shooter won't be for everybody, and that's why I wanted to make sure we covered that in this episode. So let's get straight to it. We'll go with number 1. And the first reason not to offer hybrid as a business is because you're already smashing it. You don't need to. What a wonderful position to be in if that's the case. Your business is doing well, you're at the top of your game. Maybe you're really well established, really well thought of. Maybe you've got some really amazing clients, maybe really high profile celebrity clients or people with plenty of money, and they're throwing it at you. You are creating amazing work, or you have built up a great name for yourself. Why would you want to potentially damage that brand, damage your name, and make things, reduce your success by adding something into the mix that isn't necessarily part of what you've been doing, which has got you where you are, or like something that might, take away from what you've been doing, or it might even start to give you a bit of negative attention. So totally get that. And if you most people that I would suggest that listen to this podcast are looking to develop, learn, grow. They're not necessarily going to be in that position where they're at the absolute top. They can't go any higher, or they can't see how they can go any higher. So there might not be many people listening to it in that situation. But if you are in that situation, you feel like you're in that situation, then no, I probably wouldn't want to mess with that formula either. But here's the thing. It's good to keep an open mind because things can change in the future. Like, let's think about people, photographers when people were shooting on film. There were no digital cameras, and all of a sudden digital cameras came in, and those film photographers who were absolutely the best, they started to say, well, I don't want to do digital. This is film. This is the only way to shoot. This is the right way to shoot. I don't think those digital cameras are going to catch on. They're not as good quality. The quality's not there. The capability's not there. I can give the best results for my clients based on film. And I would say, what happened to those film photographers? Not that film photography's come back. It's made a revival, if you like. But I'm not talking about something that's a bit niche and a bit, people like to do it because it's a bit cool and it gives a particular type of result. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like people who, they shot on film, they delivered in an album, they didn't deliver digital files, they didn't give people kind of hundreds of photos documenting the entire day. They gave them the traditional set formals, because that's basically how it worked with film photography back in the day. So I'm talking about that situation. Or the filmmakers, the wedding filmmakers, the videographers who worked solely on really large camcorders or broadcast style cameras. They said, no, I'm not getting a DSLR. I cannot see how I can produce the work I want to produce and film a wedding on a DSLR. That's not possible. That's not the right way. Where are they today? If they didn't at some point embrace the future, the changes of the technology, the changes of the way people are doing stuff, where are they today? I would imagine both of those people are not in business, because their business will not have survived the changes without them adapting. So that's the point. What if a business never built a website because they said, no, people find me through the yellow pages or the classified ads, or print. I advertise in a magazine. So I'm not going to build a website, or I'm not going to get a social media page. I'm not going to make a Facebook page or an Instagram page. I'm not saying directly comparing all of those things that I've just said to the changes of incorporating both photography and video into your business. But what I'm saying is it's potentially just as big. Photography and video kind of being a combined offering, if you like, is potentially as big a change to the industry as, the change between shooting on film and shooting digital, or the change between advertising your business in a paper version or something like that, a wedding fair, and not having a website or social media page. It's, there's been changes to the industry, and so even though things are perfect now, things might change in the future. Okay, so number 2. You want to be able to continue creating the absolute best quality. And you are like creating a specialist product. You are a photographer who is creating a particular, you're not just a generic wedding photographer. You are creating the most artistic or unique images of people's wedding day, or you are offering a unique perspective, your artistic and creative perspective of their wedding day. Or a film that is so cinematic and so well considered in its creation, in the way that you're shooting it, in the way that it's edited together, that's the quality of product that you're offering to your client. It isn't just a wedding film, or it's not just a set of wedding photos. This is your art. This is unique. Okay? And you can't compromise, because every piece, everything that you make, every wedding is a masterpiece. So if you were to kind of add things in there, it wouldn't work anymore. So this is like a separate point to the first one, because the first one is you don't need to, because you're really successful. The second one, you might not be the most successful you could possibly be, but this is your approach to it. Your approach is that I am creating this and I don't want to compromise on that. And that's a good reason not to do it, because there is no way that you can add video to photo or photo to video without there being some kind of compromise in the quality of what you will capture / what you will deliver. Now, that compromise is going to be different in different cases. There will be a range of the quality differences. And if you've been if you've got a niche product that you're delivering and that is what your business is built around, that's what your brand is built around. Obviously, this is a separate issue, separate conversation altogether, is what do you build your brand around? Do you build your brand around the product? Do you build your brand around the service? Do you build your brand around a combination of things? But the point being that if the thing that you do, the thing that you deliver is the most niche, important thing, you can't probably bring those in. And you don't want to damage what you've been creating. So in that case, I wouldn't try and add one or the other in, because you will personally never be happy with what you're creating. And I don't know if it will matter to the clients necessarily, but if you're getting a specific type of client because of the particular type of work that you're creating, and you don't want that to change, and you would rather maintain your integrity on the product that you're creating rather than the business side of things, absolutely. I wouldn't say that it doesn't mean you can't have a successful business. It just means you're not kind of thinking about the business first. You're thinking about the creative first. And if that's the case, no, you shouldn't do hybrid in that situation. Number 3, you don't think that you'll be able to create the appropriate quality of product. So again, these 3 are quite linked, but they are slightly separate, because the first one we're talking about is you don't need to, because you're already smashing it. The second one is you are so focused on creating a particular type of product that you can't mess with that, because that is you, that is what you do, and that is what you're delivering, and that's your whole business. And 3 is that you would like to potentially, you like the idea of being able to add both, and you can see the benefits from a business perspective, and you can see the benefits for the consumer, for the customer, for the couples, or for the client, but you don't think you'll be able to create the appropriate quality of the product. And remember, this is subjective. So quality of product, even if you're just a photographer or just a videographer, and that's the service that you're providing on its own, your product, your photos, your films will be a different standard and quality to somebody else's. You might be charging the same, you might be in the same market, but there will be a difference in quality. And also remember that quality is subjective. So something is worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. Somebody will like what they like. And because there's such a range of styles and approaches and the kind of stuff that people put out, you will not be able to compare apples to apples on wedding photography and wedding videography. You can compare them in a very, in this price range. But again, then we start looking at, what type of style do you want? What type of approach do you want? What type of aesthetic do you want on the images or on the films? What type of edit do you want? All of these things are going to be subjective. So you can't really compare them in a simple way. But very much you might think that you won't be able to provide the same quality. And obviously it's important that you maintain a quality of a product. But for me, it depends what you're realistically trying to create. What you need to be doing is you need to be producing comparable and consistent work. So if you've been a photographer and you're going to add video in, and you create a video, so let's say you create a highlight film as well as your photos. The main thing is that when you go to recreate that, so then you go again and you do another photo and video job where you're creating a highlight film. It's really important that your highlight film that you've been showing people, that's your portfolio piece, resembles something like the ones that they're going to get after their wedding. So the one that you're going to produce next time and the one that you're going to produce after that. So as long as your photos and your videos are comparable and consistent with the work that you've been showing people and that they've booked you on, the quality, the quality that, you know, as professionals, we might critique each other or view each other on, doesn't really matter. As long as the customer, as long as the client, the couple have seen your work and you're going to deliver something like that to them, that's the only box you need to tick. But if you don't think you can replicate that, if you think you could do on your best day at the best wedding, you could produce this, but then day in, day out, you're not going to be able to produce that, no, I don't think you should be trying to offer it. You basically, what I'm saying is you either need to get to a point where you feel comfortable that you're going to produce something similar every time, and until you get to that point, it's probably not a good idea to be advertising yourself as a hybrid shooter. Okay, so just a little break for a second. I just would love to, if you're listening to this and you're getting something from it, please just, if you can right now, just stop, go to the app that you're listening to. Most people, according to the stats, are listening to this on Apple Podcasts. But there are other people listening on different devices, different platforms. Some people are watching on YouTube. Please, if you're watching, listening, wherever you're doing that, just please give us a little rate, review, like it, subscribe, whatever it is that you can do to support the growth of the podcast and what we're trying to do. Really appreciate that. And the second thing is, if you could just share it on your socials, just give it a mention. Just try and get more people listening, because there's going to be plenty of people who want to learn these skills. We're going to be offering more and more content that's going to be helping people to either become hybrid shooters or learn more about their photography, their videography. There's going to be some really interesting chats with guests coming up, hopefully. And I really want people to be able to access that. So if you could share it with people, that'd be amazing. Thank you very much. So number 4, your workload and workflow. So if you add in an extra service into what you offer, it's obviously going to require more time per project. It's going to increase your workload on the day, because on the day, believe me, if you're doing just photo or just video, it feels quite easy compared to doing both together. Because obviously, you know, you're having to get more content through the day. You know, you take a few photos, you film some film clips separately. Those things take amount of time. You're kind of doubling your time almost by having to capture both at the same time, especially if you're doing that as one person. So your days are a lot more intense on the actual shoots, whether that's a commercial shoot or whether that's a wedding or something. And then you also have, and this is the big bit, the post-production. The post-production is immense. Now, we'll be doing an episode in the future on photo and video, the differences in workload and workflow. But just to summarize that, if you're, and I say it with photographers adding video in because that's more common than the other way around. If you're a photographer adding video in, you're going to start offering video, you're going to do a highlight film or whatever. What I'll say is you're going to find just how much work goes into video. Not the first one you ever do, because the first one you ever do you probably won't even realize how long it's taken you, and you'll enjoy it. But after that, it's going to, if you're going to be doing it alongside your regular wedding photos, you're going to realize just how intense the video workflow is. So an example will be like a photographer starts offering highlight films with limited experience of creating them, and without really understanding what's going to be entailed in that. Once they're doing it at volume, like alongside the volume of the photos that they do, especially if you shoot maybe 40, 50, 60 weddings a year as a wedding photographer, if you start adding like a bunch of highlight films into those because you reach out to your couples and say, hey, I'm now offering highlight films. Do you want to hire me to do your highlight film as well? But you're kind of doing the same volume with your wedding photos, you are going to get a huge, nasty shock, I would imagine. And I'm not saying that to be critical. What I'm saying is I know some photographers that have done this, and it really is hard to understand just how much of a it will slow everything down because you just won't be able to keep up with the weddings at the same pace. And then you're going to end up really hating doing the wedding videos. And then you're probably going to think, well, it's not even worth it because I haven't charged enough. So it really is about reducing. If you're going to do both alongside each other, you really need to have this kind of business plan, and it will take a little bit of time to adjust. You're not going to be able to do it at day one, but you need to have a solid plan of, I'm going to now offer these at volume. To start with, I'll restrict it to a certain number that I think I'll be able to manage. And then going on, you know, because everyone's booking a year or two down the line, going on, I'm going to limit my jobs to this many, knowing that I'm probably going to be doing both on quite a few of them. So that would be just the advice. And it's a good reason not to do hybrid if you're not intent on doing that. If you like shooting 40, 50, 60 or however many weddings a year, probably not a good idea to shoot hybrid unless you're building like a really kind of decent team around you of people to support you. People are going to be helping you out with that, or you're going to be contracting out the editing. You're going to be getting somebody else to edit this stuff for you, and then it might be worth doing. And the final one, number 5, is your equipment. You need to invest in the right equipment to be efficient in your workflow and output when you're doing both photo and video. Now, what I'll say is this is not an essential starting point. I would say anybody, you could even film and take photos on your iPhone, right? Hopefully no one's doing that as a professional at weddings or in commercial world, but you can do that. Now, if you've got a decent, let's say, photography camera, you can do both. I don't know any photo cameras now that don't have a video function on them that shoots in either HD or 4K and could produce a half decent film if you wanted to. So it's not about like having to completely change your cameras and things like that. But you do need to consider that to be able to create the same thing, there are going to need to be some adjustments. And like, even if it's just simple adjustments, like you might need different memory cards, because the memory cards that you might use for photo, you might have quite small memory cards and they might fill up really quick. So you either need to buy more of them or you need to buy bigger memory cards. The memory cards that you're using might be really fine. You know, the speed of them might be fine for taking photos and it kind of putting the photos on there. But as soon as you start putting high resolution video clips on, the cards might not be fast enough for the camera to put the information on there fast enough, because it's much bigger amounts of information. So you might need different memory cards for that reason. You might need more batteries because doing video, it will eat through the batteries a lot quicker. And these are like simple things that you might need to consider before you start doing it. And if you're not prepared to invest money in this, or you haven't got the money to invest in this, then you might not want to start doing hybrid. In more detail, you know, if you are a videographer that's going to start offering photo, you might need to buy things like a flash, a strobe for your camera, to be able to deal with different lighting conditions and make sure that your photos are up to scratch when it comes to certain lighting conditions. You might not, but these are just examples. Or if the opposite way around, if you're a photographer going into video, you might want to invest in a constant LED light. It could be to do with adding audio recorders into the mix, some kind of microphone audio recorder so that you can record sound. You can clip them onto people, you can record them speaking, the vows, the speeches, things like that. These are sort of like straightforward and not massively big pieces of investment. Or it could be that actually, if you want to do hybrid and you want to be as efficient and you want to have the easiest life as possible for being able to produce a really good product, your camera system, either the model that you've got, the camera system that you're on, or the lenses that you've got, might not really be the best choice for being able to do both. And like I say, you can shoot hybrid on anything, but it's about what I've learned over the years is, if I'm just shooting video, I'm going to use very limited settings and I can do it on certain lenses. If I'm going to be shooting just photo, the same. When I'm doing both, the main thing that speeds things up and makes things as easy and as efficient and effective as possible is the use of certain lenses. So for example, the Tamron 35-150, I've only had it, I only got it last year, but that lens is a game changer for hybrid. It just allows you to do so much so quickly. The Sony cameras that I use, things like the A1, just amazing for hybrid because of how quickly they do things, the processor in them and everything. So I don't think I would get the same results on a 5-year-old DSLR. Well, I know I wouldn't. It's not even a question. But, that's what I'm saying. It's if you want to shoot hybrid, you can do it on anything, but it's really important to consider these things. So there's your 5 reasons. The whole point is that there are good reasons not to. I haven't listed everything, but they're just 5 that I came up with. What I would say is not liking change or not wanting to adapt. They're not good reasons not to do hybrid. That's not a great mindset to have if you're wanting to maintain a successful and sustainable business moving forwards, because change is like, you'll hear this all over, but change is pretty inevitable in everything. It's the only thing you can really guarantee is that things will change. The world will change. There's plenty of things I don't really want to have to do in my business. A big one being Instagram. The way that social media has changed since I started doing this. Bearing in mind, I'm not that old and I'm not that out of touch and my business isn't that old. But I really don't like the way it's kind of changed over the last few years. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't sit well with me. But it is how it is. The TikTok, Instagram, Reel generation is how it is. I can't resist that. I can't say I'm not doing it. I have to make some kind of effort to move with the times, the way that the industry has changed. And it'll continue to change. There'll be something new in a couple of years' time. There'll be changes for as long as I'm doing this and as long as you're doing this. So just saying resisting that change is like saying I'm not going to get a digital camera. I'm just going to carry on shooting on film and delivering 30, let's say 2 rolls, like 60 to 100 images. I'm going to give them 2 rolls of film. And that's it. And I'm not going to advertise online. I'm not going to get a website because, that's not how it's done. I put my thing in the yellow pages and I get booked up. And then 5 years later, you got no business. So really important stuff to move with the times. I hope that's been useful to listen to the 5 reasons that you shouldn't offer hybrid as a business. And that is it for this episode. If you've got any questions from the episode or you want to comment on anything that I've talked about, you want to argue with me, you want to give me something I haven't thought of, or ask any questions, you can get me on Instagram at Your Story Studios. Just send me a DM. You can type it out, voice note, whatever. I'd love to hear from you and I will get straight back to you. I always get back to people when they ask questions or make any comments. And thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this little mini episode. It's been a little bit longer than I intended, but hey, I like to talk. Thanks for listening. See you on the next episode. Bye.